What do you do when you say to everybody, I'm going to expose the Epstein list? You get in, and then the president, who you know and trust, says, here's what will happen if you do. And then he hands you the button and says, you're allowed to press it if you want. Just know, here's all the collateral damage the U.S. will face because of it. Mm-hmm. Do you press the button? I know a lot of people would say yes. A lot of people would say no. I'm not saying what you should or shouldn't do. I'm pointing out these are the scenarios faced by people who try and get into politics. The world is not so simple and cut and dry.
No, it's not.
It is not so easy to just say we shouldn't, like, people think that the Venezuela move against Maduro was an easy yes or no. No, it wasn't. I say I'm lukewarm on it. It's not the same thing as Iraq and Afghanistan. That was a debacle for sure. Mistakes were made, horrible mistakes. But the people who were just like, the U.S. should never for any reason intervene in any other country. I'm like, that's an absolutism. It's retarded.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
There are circumstances that will arise. Sometimes you do. We typically want to avoid it. That's why I say I'm lukewarm on it. If, like with the Iran thing, I said, no, we should not be bombing Iran. You will destabilize this region. And we narrowly escaped. And I say, okay, we got out of that one. I'm not a fan of this stuff because the unknowns. But I think you can reduce it down to a more personal experience so the average person can better understand, right? And I described it the other day like your neighbor is selling drugs. Do you think, let's say your neighbor is selling pot. Or no, let's lighten the load. Let's lighten the load. Your neighbor has parties every night. Lots of booze, people are drunk. I don't mind if people are drinking and getting drunk and having parties. I'm not the party police. I'm not going to shut people down who want to have a good time. Now there's beer cans all over the lawn. They're spreading out in the street in front of my house. I got to go clean these things up. Okay, well, I'm going to go to my neighbor's house and I'm going to knock on the door and be like, hey, guy, look, like the beer. He's like, hey, man, I'm not on your property. It's not my problem. It's your problem. You deal with it. At a certain point, it's not so simple to just say, I don't want to infringe on someone else's right to drink. At a certain point, there's an infringement that must be remedied. Will you take action to benefit yourself over someone who is directly or indirectly aggressing upon you? Or are you going to just let it keep happening? It's not always so easy. But I think the challenging issue that most people don't want to recognize is let's try this. Let me try a scenario for you guys, because I want to play this morality game. Mr. Lectern, man, do you work anywhere right now, or what are you working on?
I just finished my book, and I am running a race for county commissioner in Manatee County. You can go to my website and sign up for my email list. It is voteadamjohnson.com.
I think it's probably hard to do a hypothetical with people who are clearly running their own businesses or running for office. But the hypothetical I want to present is, you discover that your boss, you work for a great company. It's hypothetical. You work for a company and you're in computer sales, and you discover that your boss has been embezzling, money from the company.
I blackmail him.
If you out him for doing this, you will lose your job and your company closes. You have no guarantee you'll have money to feed your children. Do you expose the manager who's embezzling funds?
No, I'd have to make sure I have another job secure first, because I wouldn't want to work with someone who works like that.
There's a lot of questions in morality, like if you had a document that would expose a billionaire for being a pedophile, and then as you're like, I'm going to publish this, a man slides a picture of your daughter through a sniper, through a scope, saying the moment you press this button, she dies. Do you publish the document?
Nope, I love my children.
These are the challenges that people act like don't exist, right? Is it the right thing to do to expose a corrupt manager who's stealing money from the company? Well, the blowback could destroy the company and you'll be out of work and you don't know how you'll get a paycheck to feed your kids. I think a lot of people are going to be like, then I wouldn't expose him. So you'd let a guy steal money, a fraudster, a criminal, rip off a company. Well, I don't want my kids to go hungry. I get these comments all the time on this show. I am not telling anybody what is right or what is wrong. It is a very serious challenge for people. You want to get super hypothetical? Sure. Dan Bongino goes, I got the Epstein list, I'm going to publish it. And then a guy in a suit says, here's a picture of your daughter through a scope. Right? I'm not saying that literally happened, but what do you do in geopolitics in these circumstances?
Well, and then the other, like, outside of hypotheticals, the other real realities of the American people is, I've said this on my show all the time. We've talked about states that are lost causes. We've talked about triaging, getting out of certain states and going fortifying actual states that are winnable, and then we never have to worry about things again. And people will tell me, well, Graham, I can't just move.
Right.
Like, it's not that simple. But you want to publish a list that hypothetically could collapse the entire American system, a government, economic system, and things like that. You're fine with that. But how are you going to have a job? How are you going to do this if that happens?
We should do, we got to do videos like this. We should totally do this video. We should do videos where we bring people in for like a social experiment, and we give them a button, and it's like, if you press this button, you'll receive $1,000, and we will mercilessly beat this puppy. I'm kidding.
They'd have hit the button before you
Don't invite
finished what
Fauci.
you were saying.
He will press that button.
He will absolutely press that button.
We keep actually sampling for Haitians, and they're just spamming.
And then they're like, do I get to eat the dog after
can
it's
I? Wait,
tenderized?
no, don't do it. Wait, no.
But it'd be interesting to put people in situations where it's a rock and a hard place. But it shouldn't be with direct benefit to themselves. It would be like, there is a man right now. He's a known criminal, and he's beaten and raped women. And you can release this information. It will expose him, and he will go to prison. It will also, these 10 people work for his company will lose their jobs, and their families will go without food. Like, how do you decide? And I think most people are going to be like, expose him. You know what I mean? It's almost like a trolley problem.
Yeah.
These things exist in every facet of government and every industry, but we're dealing with this one-dimensional comic book-esque political space where people are like, if it is not zero sum, I'm mad at you, you're a bad guy.
Oh, rhetoric is very easy. You can go online, you can post things. The common one I've always heard is, if we can't be a nation that arrests pedophiles, we don't deserve to be a nation. And it's a great sentiment. And I believe in that sentiment. I really do. If we're protecting pedophiles, that's not good for us. But what can we actually do about it? I'm just a guy, but talk about it, right? And I think the reason a lot of people are mad at Cash, mad at Bondi, mad at Dan, is because they are the people we sent to go do these things. But it can't just be on one person that takes all the responsibility for it. I understand it's their job, but it's also our job to stay vocal, to keep talking about these things.
I don't believe anybody. I'm sorry. Like, I know there are some people who stand true, and if you're out there, you know who you are, but let's be real. If the release of the Epstein documents, and I'm not saying this is absolute, because I know the responsibility is going to be like, but it's not true, Tim. No, I'm saying hypothetically, if the release of the Epstein documents did implicate enough prominent people from foreign governments to corporations that the U.S. economy would destabilize, knocking us down 80%, would you release the documents? I guarantee you most people are going to be like, of course I would. Then actually offer them up what that means. You'll lose your home. You'll have no food. Milk will cost $50.
Healthcare's gone.
Healthcare's gone. People are going to be like, no, I won't do it. Because I hear it all the time from people that they would rather, like we've had these conversations on the show before, and like we did polls where people are like, I'll put it like this. You can expose all of the Epstein pedophiles. Easily done. Let's take it to the extreme end. You have the file in your hands. You can choose to, a digital file. You can press go, and the internet, everyone will have it. Your daughter will die at the same time. Will you do it?
No.
Nobody would.
No.
Nobody would. And I'm not saying that's the reality. I'm giving you an extreme hypothetical. The point is, if it was something as simple as Trump says, our economy is going to take a 20% hit, people will die, then Dan Bongino is going to be like, I can't do anything about it. Is he going to be the guy who pulls a trigger and goes on in history as the one who caused, deaths because he was like these people? And I'm sure what happens behind the scenes is someone like Trump says, do you really want to see the U.S. economy collapse for these 15 assholes? And people are going to be like, no. So who's really going to press that button? The truth is, all these people screaming they would, I doubt they would.
No.
I might.
Well,
I've done some
but I'm a
crazy
crazy
things.
person.
Yeah.
Just crazy thing, you know what I mean? I might be like, look, that's why I said the people who are true to it, they're out there, they know who they are. They'd be like, I don't care. I'll figure it out. I lean in that direction, but I'm not going to pretend to be some like moralist guy who's better than everybody who would actually do it. If it came down to it, and the president came to me and said, Tim, I'm going to give you the choice. You could press the button. Here's all the bad things that are going to happen. Do you want it to be on you? I'd probably say no, too.
You press that button, there will be a significant amount more of children who suffer than what happened on the island.
Well, that and the very people who want you to release that information or press that button will then turn on you and probably kill you because you destroy their entire lives in the process.
They'll make up a reason. A lot of people will be like, you didn't have to do it that way.
Right,
No one
right.
ever,
Yeah.
but you did
Right.
it wrong.
Did you see the Bongino statistics, what he did of the FBI, they arrested thousands of pedophiles, and no one's celebrating that. So I don't really think it's about the pedophiles. I think it's about we want to see people in power that they are touchable, that we can get to them. That's what it's about. Because if it's about the children, they should be consistent then. We've arrested pedophiles, thousands of them. You just want to see people of power be arrested.
Just the election of Donald Trump meant that the trafficking of children across the southern border stopped. Closing the border, or at least it's significantly decreased.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to say that Donald Trump being the president isn't, oh, what are we getting out of it? Nothing's happening, blah, blah, blah. I mean, the border's closed. We had a decline in number of people that are in the country because of deportation.
Net negative migration,
net negative migration. So like, I understand people being frustrated because they're not seeing the results immediately and they're not getting what they want fast enough. But to say that nothing happened, that's just not true.
I think the chat right now is actually hilarious in that it's divided between people who say they would actually kill their daughters to publish the Epstein list and others saying it's disgusting you would consider killing your daughter to publish the Epstein list. Like, I know it's an extreme end, but this is the reality of politics is that it's not yes, no, it's not zero sum. It's not I can just do it and there's no ramifications. The idea that Trump got into office and then decided to become evil is laughable. Trump is Trump. The idea that Dan Bongino dedicated his life to calling out all this evil, walked through a door and instantly just was transformed to a Sith Lord, it's just not correct. Something is going on we don't understand, and it's a rock and a hard place. Everybody who lives on the outside, one of the challenges in being in politics and being in culture is like this kind of space, is that most people who watch are not involved. I'm not saying everybody. Those who are, you know who you are, and you're going through the fight. But a lot of people just passively watch, and they don't have to actually be the one who pulls the trigger.
Correct.
That's why I always give respect to veterans, because I met a veteran recently. He said he was a big fan and he appreciates what I do, and I was like, I appreciate what you do, man. Like, I complain on the internet, the shit that our brave men and women have to do, and do for us. Most people don't want to talk about or know about, and they don't have to. So we often rag on liberals who act all high and mighty, not realizing what it takes to make America wealthy and successful. And there's dark, evil shit this country does so that we can have cheap computers.
Yeah.
The lines that, or the rant that Jack Nicholson did in A Few Good Men was actually true.
Yeah.
Even though he was the bad guy and whatnot, like, it's actually true that, like, brave men brave men stand ready to do violence on bad people so you can sleep soundly in your bed.
And it's the same thing we do to socialists, where we're like, how can you be a socialist but use an iPhone? It's the same thing. It's like, I am strongly against child exploitation, and then they're wearing Nikes and they're having a cup of Nestle coffee every morning. It's like no, I'm critiquing the argument about socialists. Like, you're operating in a system that is built on like these sorts of really gross stuff. No one wants to see how the
sausage is
made. Yeah, exactly.
I say that a lot. I just have that argument that people say, oh, these kids are working for no money or dirt, $1 a day or whatever. And it's like, well, a lot of times the option is sexual solicitation.
Like,
so
the world is a really, Trump said it himself, it's a nasty, angry place.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to make tough decisions.
Well, psychology says that, right? So we feel the effect of one person dying more than 1,000 people dying because we cannot wrap our heads around 1,000 people just dying at the same time or 1,000,000 people dying at the same time, right? So we're very passionate about when we say, like, that one person, they're suffering, right? So when we see the girl who was murdered on the bus by the black guy, I mean, that broke news everywhere. We see Daniel Payne. It's very easy to see at one time. That stuff happens all the time, thousands of times a day. And around the world, I mean, it happens millions of times a day. We see one thing, we're very passionate about it.
Yeah, you get an Instagram reel of, like, someone dying in like a hurricane. And it's this horrible thing, and you really feel emotional. And then, like Bangladesh, like 1,000 die in a mudslide, and you're like, oh.
Well, that's why we care about Epstein so much more than, the other child trafficking that's happening all over the world.
Yeah. That
we're obviously complicit into at some level.
I think the reality of politics, geopolitics, the world, and everything is that when it comes down to it, 99% of people would never sacrifice their friends, their families, and their security for the collective. The reason why it works on the left is they don't have friends, family, or kids. And the right does. And that's why the right usually gets beaten down. Mm-hmm. Because when it comes down to it, it's very easy for a crackpot leftist to shoot at your studio and threaten the life of your family and then put us in a position where we're like, we don't want to bring risk to our family. But these leftists don't have families themselves, so they don't face the same risk. And then we're between the rock and the hard place of, do we continually expose ourselves to a degenerate faction of evil scumbags who don't face the same the same fears, the same threats.
Yeah.
Most people in you look at some of the the things that are happening around the world, and you ask yourself why it is that Congress is a bunch of corrupt scumbags who are doing insider trading. It's because nobody wants to risk their families to stop someone else. To put it simply, Nancy Pelosi should be in prison for
insider trading.
Insider trading, but she's got the power to subpoena you and put you in prison, like the J6 committee did to Bannon and Peter Navarro and that. And so you're sitting there, depending on your age especially, with your young kids and your wife, and you're like, if I try to fight this evil person, she will cause harm not just to me but my family. And the thing that we've brought up is that the founding fathers made that choice. They sacrificed blood, treasure, and family. Yeah. Some of one guy's wife was kidnapped. One guy has kid, and one guy's kid betrayed him. And there are real questions about when people are willing to make those choices. For the most part, right now in this country, nobody wants to go head to head against these corrupt forces in government, because these corrupt forces in government will arrest you and your lawyers. They will make up fake crimes about you. They will go on TV and accuse you of working for Russia or some other psychotic nonsense. They will lie and claim that you've abused women or that you stole a lectern you didn't steal.
Yep. Yeah, that happens. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that January 6th, there were about 1,600 people that were willing to risk their freedom to speak up and say our country's being stolen from us. Mm-hmm. So I do think those people do exist. I think the entire reason they're still doing this is to remind you, we will come after you if you ever do this again.
Yeah.
That's the point. In the future, exactly why are Democrats having a candlelight vigil? To say to anybody who would make the choice to risk everything, their family, blood, treasure, or otherwise, they're going to destroy you and everyone around you. It is the kill you and 3 generations of your family threat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I get that question all the time. Would I do it again now? It's been 5 years later. And I say at this point, absolutely yes. I think it woke a lot of people up across the couple of years of them hunting us down.
What did you really do?
I walked around maliciously.
That's the point. It's like you didn't wage war. You walked into a room through the velvet ropes and everybody was seemingly on a tour with cops taking selfies with people. And you picked up a lectern and waved and put it down.
It's true.
To be fair, you weren't like Braveheart, clanking your sword and being like, they can never take our freedom.
I mean, it's like throwing tea over a boat,
With all due respect, it was less than that.
I know. I should have taken it home. I should have done something different.
There were rioters that were there that committed crimes and all that stuff. But it's laughably insane the lengths they went to destroy the lives of people who did barely anything. People who walked into an open door and took a selfie with a cop and then got a year in jail because of it.
Yeah, they made an example.
Right.
That's all they're trying to do. I mean, that's why you see following the Charlie Kirk assassination, you sit back and you say, okay, I'm an ethical person. How could someone even possibly conjure up the thought to mock Charlie Kirk after his death? These sorts of things. It's like, that's the point. They want to say what Charlie Kirk was doing was viable. It was a threat to the system, so to speak. Don't ever try that again or you'll be next. That was the point of that. And that's why they put the pictures up everywhere. That's why they do the vigils. They want to remind you, hey, you try that, you want to end up like him? Oh, you want to end up like him? Okay, here's a picture. There, that's going to be you. It's going to be your father. It's going to be your husband.
Yeah,
whatever.
it's funny because, I was talking to this liberal guy who's always arguing with me, and I said, we're not going to be at the studio anymore because of the shooting. And I said, look how easy it is. All liberals have to do is murder a few conservatives, then take some shots at me, and they can shut us up, right? And that's this is part of what I'm sick of with these. With the left. The millennial woes tweet that basically exemplifies the culture war. Leftists pretending like they don't understand things to make discourse impossible. There is no reality where these progressive personalities are unaware that as conservatives and moderate right-leaning individuals that are facing the real threat of death. Someone just tried breaking into J.D. Vance's home with a hammer, smashing out his windows. This isn't happening to the left.
Correct.
They just lie and pretend it is.
The lie and pretend it is the way that they treat themselves as victims, the way that they pad the numbers whenever it comes to how many politically motivated attacks are performed by the left versus the right. They've been basically controlling the narrative for so long that your average person believes them, and the more we try to get the word out, the more pushback you get.
Yeah, well, they're perpetually in rebellion and revolution. They have a revolutionary mindset, and so it's like you always have to keep throwing meat into the grinder to keep the revolution going. If the left ever they'll never actually come to a point where like, all right, I think we've won. Let's all sit back and reap the rewards. They're perpetually in a revolutionary mindset because they again perceive themselves as transgressed. They perceive themselves as victims. Like they have their boogeyman, like straight white men. Like that's they still perceive as running every echelon of society, even though like like that Compact Mag article like completely lays out like no, it's actually the opposite. But
Yeah, we do our microaggressions like we open doors for ladies. We're just the worst. We put our shopping carts back.
It's horrible.
There's
We
a
don't deserve
comment
to
here that I
exist.
think makes a good example of like the destabilization we're facing. And it's Small Rabid Monkey says, I mean, you are a bit of a coward, Tim. That I think that comment really does exemplify why we lose in the long run and why we've had tremendous victories. I do think there's some optimism to look forward to right now. It's tough. It's tough not to be black-pilled. But imagine, and again, I will stress too, like this could be a bot. It could be a liberal masquerading as someone on the right, trying to destabilize things. I'll give you an example of like why I'm singling this one out. We had Father Ripperger on the Culture War, and I talked about, I asked him, he's talking about demonic possession, demonic obsession, which is where the demon's influencing you, as opposed to being within you. And he said when people are effectively advocating for things that are wrong or bad, they're being influenced. I had Seamus Coughlin on, and Seamus brings this up as well as G Prime 85. I recommend you guys follow G Prime. He's an amazing artist. And conservatives insult artists, comedians, gamers. They insult me for skateboarding. And I asked the father if that was demonic. And he said yes. The reason why is regular people live in these spaces, and you have to fish where the fish are. If there are people attacking you to try and get you to stop doing good work, it's demonic. If you are an artist like Seamus Coughlin or G Prime, and you're trying to bring comedy to Americans that expresses and explains a conservative worldview in a funny way that makes them come into the house, if people then try to stop that work from happening, it's demonic. That's what he was saying, that someone like Seamus, who's a devout Catholic, who makes funny videos, this is entertaining to regular people, and it will open the door for them to come into his worldview, deeply religious, devout. And then he's surrounded by conservatives screaming at him to stop because he's childish and it's for babies, and he's wasting his time and wasting his life, right? That's demonic. So for these people, I would say two things. One, this could just be a liberal trying to antagonize me. It's troll, it's fake. But there are many conservatives who do this. Sit in their houses, don't engage in the culture war, aren't getting shot at, and then smugly sit there and insult you for doing it, seemingly only to try and get you to stop. Because, again, the reason why I say it could be a liberal, because now I'm faced with two distinct scenarios from both sides. Death threats and getting shot at, which is a risk to me and my family that I don't want to deal with, and conservatives insulting me over it. Why would I fight for you? Why would I risk getting shot at for you, sitting at home, doing nothing, insulting me? Again, I stress probably a liberal, and I largely ignore these things. But when you're looking at prominent conservative personalities that have been on this show that are stabbing me in the back, lying about me because they're more concerned with the Jews than having real conversations, my question is, why would I risk getting shot for you?
I know for me, I've not been shot at, but the death threats, I mean, I still get those on a very regular basis. For me, it's because I have convictions and because I'm not someone who will just sit by and watch things happen. I have children and their futures are important to me. It's why I'm doing things like getting involved locally with my community and running for office there.
And that's why I think local is really the key. The fault here comes to a nation scale thing where you're fighting for people you don't know who hate you. Right? Not everybody, but many people. I'd argue I have substantially more fans than haters. That people who hate me don't even know who I am. They don't follow the show. So like when we go out and we go places, we never run into anybody who's actually like, I hate you, because they don't know. The people who don't like me don't even know what I look like. But there is a challenge, again, to go back to like the Dan Bongino conversation of here's a guy who literally sacrificed everything to try and do it. And when he couldn't do it, they insult him and they're trying to burn him to the ground. And I'm just like, you can be disappointed in the guy, and you can say you failed That's fine. But it's weird to me that they're acting like Dan's evil.
Yeah. I genuinely feel bad for him. I mean, he would not leave his podcast. He would not leave a nice, comfortable life to go into a place to not do what he said he was going to do. So what? Lose his reputation when he goes back? None of that makes sense. It's not rational. It doesn't make sense at all.
Well, and it's from the same people that look what Dan had to give up to go. I know what I had to give up to go to the Pentagon. You're not allowed to make any money outside of what you're getting paid from the federal government, which is not a lot. It's expensive in DC. They don't pay you a lot. You get max taxes pulled out across the board. These same people that are mad at Dan Bongino or me or whoever it is, again, they're the same people. Look what Dan gave up, millions and millions of dollars to come out and be ridiculed by people, back to my earlier comment, that won't even move out of horrific cities where their families are not safe because they're worried about their paycheck of $2,000 every paycheck or something like that. You're the same people you would not do what Dan Bongino did.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.